Hey bro, so today I'm going to share with something that is going to be a bit vulnerable. It can be painful to hear, and so with that said, I'm going to give you permission that if you're not at a place to hear anything that might be painful or that might trigger emotions, I'd encourage you to place this on pause and save it for another time, or perhaps it's something that you may never want to listen to. Know that I completely respect that as well. But what I'm going to be talking today is about the danger of spiritually bypassing trauma. There's this tendency for people who have experienced traumatic moments and events in their life to suppress their feelings under the guise of superiority, morality, or just simply because they choose to and they don't know how to deal with what they went through in the past. I myself, I've gone through moments as those. I'm not going to make myself and elevate myself and say that I have never spiritually bypassed the trauma that I experienced as a child, because that was definitely the narrative that I bought into for so many years. In fact, I can tell you I had many beautiful moments in childhood. However, I experienced one traumatic experience after another, and those traumatic experiences influenced the choices that I made as an adult. Some of them were conscious choices that I'm like, this is what I'm doing, and I'm gonna be rebellious or not, because some of the influence that the trauma caused, it influenced both positive and negative choices. But there was times that I just simply rebelled because I could, and there's also a lot of unconscious choices that I made that I am just now at the age of 42 figuring out what has been taking place all these years. Recently I had a conversation with somebody, and I was sharing about a traumatic experience that I had in high school. And as I shared my traumatic experience, the person quickly deflected from the conversation and said, well, I had a similar experience and this is what I did, and I prayed about it and I've forgiven that person and I've moved on. And this person switched from this place of empathy to suddenly to a place of hyper joyous frantic behavior. It was easy to see that this person had not dealt with what had really taken place, and instead they were suppressing the emotion because that is what was expected from them. And it was sad to witness. And this person is walking life believing that they have dealt with the trauma that has taken place, and it really never has. You see, we are conditioned. We live in a society that tells us that we are what we think, and they tell us the power of positive thinking. And while that's all great, and I firmly believe in the power of positive thinking, as a matter of fact, each and every day, I put a mindset minute out. I publish that on all my social media platforms to encourage people to have a positive mindset. But the thing is that whenever we suppress different emotions and traumatic experiences, they'll eventually surface, because as 𝘠𝘧𝐺𝑢𝐻 stated, he said that the body keeps a score. We might in our minds tell ourselves that we have forgiven somebody, but the reality is that our bodies were created to protect us from harm. And no matter what, whenever we're placed in certain situations, in certain environments, what ends up happening is that we end up being triggered. And a lot of times we find ourselves acting in ways that we're unconsciously even aware of. I'll give you an example. Throughout high school, I was bullied by a certain individual. And this individual was a tall white dude that would always wear Wranglers and cowboy boots. And I want to just right away off just off the top, I want to say that this is not going to go into some type of racist category that gives me permission to speak bad about white people. I'm going to speak about my experience with a tall white dude that wore cowboy boots and Wranglers. And with that, this young man, he was a grade below me, and he had this thing. I never really ever had a conversation with him. We never talked, but he had a tendency, whenever I was least expecting it, to trip me or to push me, and he'd call me a wetback, or he'd call me mohau, which are both derogatory racist statements towards Mexican Americans, and they refer to someone of Mexican descent that has swum across the border illegally to get to the United States. Take it, I'm third generation American, born in the United States. I'm an American citizen from birth. And this went on throughout high school. There's he'd push me, he'd trip me, shoot rubber bands at me, and I never really understood, like, what did I do to this dude? So I was this church kid, I was this church boy that would go to high school, and one day I was walking down the foyer of my high school, and it had just rained, and I remember hearing the word, "Hey, wetback," and being pushed. And I remember I was carrying my Bible. I had worked hard in the fields in the summer because I was a farm laborer, and my Bible went flying and landed in this big puddle of water, and it was ruined. And I remember looking back and seeing the look of satisfaction on his face. Now take it, years have passed by. That happened in 1995, and so we're looking 25 years that this has passed, and there is still a tendency that whenever I am in the presence of a white man who is taller than me, that is wearing Wranglers and boots, that although in my mind I am loving and accepting of this person, my heart starts to race, and my palms get sweaty, and I am on the defensive. And it's not because I was taught to hate white people. As a matter of fact, I have tons of amazing relationships with people that are are white, and that they love me, and they love me unconditionally, and it's beautiful, and they add so much value to my life. But my body remembers the trauma that I experienced, and for me, being bullied and being treated in such a racist manner was very traumatic. My body has remembered that. And so years have passed by. As a matter of fact, this young man died a very tragic death not too long after I graduated high school. But years after, even though he is dead, even though he is powerless to hurt me, my body has kept the score, and I've had to work with counselors to overcome that. So here's what I'm getting with that, is that whenever we spiritually bypass trauma, we are never allowing ourselves to develop the awareness that our body needs to really truly be present with ourselves, to own where we're at in life, and to earn how we interact with others. What is interesting is that the conversation that I was sharing with this individual that prayed and forgave and moved on, it was regarding race. And the interesting thing is that I'm pretty sure this person is, even though cognitively she knows the right thing to do, because of the trauma that she's experienced in her life, she will forever find herself at a place where she is mistreating people of other races, unconsciously, unaware, not knowing, just simply because her autonomic nervous system in her body is telling her to protect herself. So these are things that we don't talk about whenever we deal with trauma, and the long-term effects that it will have on our lives. So with this said, my my conversation is really just to encourage you that no matter what you went through, it doesn't matter if it seems small compared to other people's trauma. Trauma is trauma, and it needs to be dealt with. Listen, if you are listening to this and you need someone to talk to, please don't hesitate to send me a DM. I'd love to hold that space for you and know that we are in this battle together, my friend. Stay safe, be blessed.